And now, on my trek through the IMDb Bottom 100, we're looking at number 36, the 1990 cult classic Troll 2. No relation to Troll, of course. So yes, this is a cult classic that is well known in the circle of so bad's good movies, which kind of makes this a hard video to make. Like, everything that can be said about it has already been said. What am I gonna do, just keep playing the oh my god clip over and over?
They're eating her! And then they're going to eat me! Oh my god! They're eating her! And then they're going...
Okay, that's enough. Well, it's on Tubi, so I have no excuse to skip it. Anyway, this is actually the second time I've seen this. Also, years before that, I saw the documentary on it, Best Worst Movie, directed by its former child star Michael Paul Stevenson, way back when I was in college and I was on Netflix. I think I learned a bit from that movie, but most of it was centered around the movie's fan base and where the cast is now, so not as much about production as I'd like. Plus, it was years ago, so I might not remember it. So I'm doing my background information the same way I always do, the references section on the Wikipedia page. Anyway, those of you unfamiliar with this movie may be expecting some words about Troll 1. Well, like I said at the beginning, there is indeed an original Troll movie, but Troll 2 has nothing to do with it. This title was given by the American distributors as a marketing ploy so that they could market it as a sequel to something. And that something was the otherwise forgotten and completely unrelated 1986 horror comedy Troll. They may be completely different stories with completely different characters, but there are some similarities. They are both PG-13 horror movies that follow child characters as their family moves into a new house and they encounter evil fantasy creatures. The main difference? Troll 2 doesn't have any freaking trolls in it. But anyway, I never saw the original Troll movie. I'm pretty sure half the people who saw Troll 2 haven't even seen that. But it's also on Tubi, so I may as well look at it first, so I can complain about the fact that Troll 2 isn't a completely faithful sequel. Troll was directed by John Carl Buechler, who was a very popular special effects designer for horror in the 80s, working on things like Reanimator, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Halloween 4, and even did some uncredited work on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and then spent the rest of his career doing mainly B-movies. He'd also go on to direct Friday the 13th, The New Blood. He also wrote the script for Troll alongside of Ed Naha, future writer of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Wikipedia says that this was filmed in Italy, back-to-back with the movie TerrorVision. The entire production segment of this page has no source cited, but IMDb does confirm that they had some of the same crew working on both of them, including Buechler doing what else but special effects, and it also confirms that they opened within a month of each other. So all things considered, yeah, they probably were filmed back-to-back. This movie centers around the Potter family, which includes the father, Harry, and the eldest son, Harry Jr. That's right, this movie has 2 Harry Potters. Are you jealous, JK? More on that when I'm talking about the aftermath. Anyway, they move into a new apartment, except as soon as they move in, Harry Jr.'s younger sister, whose name I don't care about because it didn't become the name of one of the most popular characters of the 2000s. Okay, fine, her name is apparently Wendy Ann Potter. Anyway, Wendy Ann Potter gets kidnapped by a troll who then uses a magic ring to take her shape and replace her. And let's just say they sneak off a lot to go terrorize the neighbors. Basically using magic to turn them into plants or something and turn their apartments into magical forests so that the troll can destroy the human realm and replace it with a fantasy realm. And Harry Jr. has to stop them, alongside a neighbor who just happens to be a witch whose apartment is just casually full of mystical stuff, including a living mushroom creature that she disguises as a lamp. Also, Sonny Bono plays their swinger neighbor who gets the first and most detailed transformation death. And a pre-Seinfeld Julia Louis-Dreyfus also plays the victim. Except what happened with her is kind of unclear. She doesn't really die or transform, she just kind of runs and dances around the forest naked, or almost naked, wearing a bunch of vines draped over her body just enough to keep the PG-13 rating. Yeah, this movie isn't really much less crazy than its fake sequel. Being directed by an 80s horror and B-movie special effects guy, you'd expect this to be pretty heavy on the practical effects. And you'd be right. And they look pretty good. The troll's face could be a little more expressive, but other than that, this is a pretty good showcase for practical effects. When the troll's in his human form, he's played by child actress Jenny Beck, who does a great job of portraying the troll's eccentricities. A portion of it is her trying to act human but not really pulling it off, often to comedic effect. It's not always particularly funny, but her performance does sell it. The highest rated review of this movie on Letterboxd mentions that Michael Moriarty is his usual bizarre, entertaining self. I did not know who that guy was until now. Apparently he was in some stuff, won an Emmy for playing a Nazi in the miniseries Holocaust. I'm guessing he wasn't as fun in that one. I'm not familiar with his usual bizarre, entertaining self, but I guess he has some fun moments here playing Harry Potter Sr. Like there's just almost a full scene of him singing and dancing around the room to 50s rock, and so there's definitely energy there. Harry Potter Jr. is played by Noah Hathaway, whose Wikipedia page says that he was a former teen idol in Europe. Well, good thing he got his looks because his performance here was pretty wooden. And the mom, played by Shelley Hack, is okay, I guess. I don't really care, she's just the only person in the family I haven't mentioned. Anyway, as far as these types of movies go, this isn't bad. Its 4.6 IMDB rating is a little harsh. It has a 2.7 on Letterboxd, which is a little more understandable. It's not a good rating, but given the type of movie this is, that makes sense. Typical trash 80s fantasy horror comedy directed by the makeup artist for The Ginger Dead Man. Has those fun vibes. Feels a little like Gremlins, but with slightly bigger monsters. A good movie with bad movie energy. Or is it just a bad movie that has some good stuff in it that elevates it? Either way, it works. Good practical effects and a lot of weird, charming fantasy horror stuff. Basically everything it wants to be. Troll opened in July of 1986 to mostly negative reviews, opened in 9th place at the box office, but still made a profitable $5.5 million on a budget of what Wikipedia unfoundedly claims may have been less than $1 million. Remember when I singled out Jenny Beck for praise? Well, I've been validated because that role got her a Youth in Film Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. And then aside from Troll 2, this movie may be remembered for one other thing, Harry Potter. Yes, it had the name first, but others have claimed that there are actually other similarities in the story. Here are some big ones. 1. The fantasy elements. 2. I can't really find any second one, neither when I watched the movie or when I looked it up online. Trust me, I wish there was more. You think I'm happy I have to side with J.K. Rowling, the one who became part of my childhood with a series about love and tolerance only to make a hardline turn into advocating for things that go directly against that message, making me ashamed to be a fan, all while still associating yourself with it? I mean, why not consistent with all the horrible things you believe when you can just whore yourself out for the money and continue to taint a good franchise? Yeah, the more trash we can heap on her, the better. Which is why I hate the fact that a core franchise of my childhood isn't just a carbon copy of something else. Why? Wikipedia has a quote where it looks like director John Carl Buechler is accusing her of ripping him off. That's probably taken out of context. The actual source sounds like it's more just about the name of the character. Because he was actually planning on remaking Troll. He would be director again, and the budget was set at $20 million. The only issue is that he was having trouble getting permission to use the name Harry Potter, the name that he invented. I'd argue that he could have changed that one name, but no, fuck bending over to Hollywood bigwigs. I can't find any confirmation as to how these plans ended, besides the fact that the remake obviously never happened, but Wikipedia claims that the final nail in the movie's coffin came when Buechler was diagnosed with cancer. He would unfortunately succumb to it in 2019 at the age of 66. Also, at some point during all that, they announced they were making an animated sequel to the movie, which would have included the voice of Patricia Arquette and would have released in 2017. An animated series would have come out the next year. Neither of these came to fruition. But the fact that all of these were even considered shows just how much of a cult following this movie has, although it's hard to tell just how much of that is just from association with the much bigger cult classic. Probably most of it.
Understand this, Harry, because it's very important. Not all wizards are good.
I'm going to bed before either of you come up with another clever idea to get us killed. Or worse, expelled.
She needs to sort out her priorities.
I think it is clear that we can expect great things from you.
The story of one of the most notorious bad movies ever started with an Italian woman named Rossella Drudy seeing that many of her friends were becoming vegetarian. And she didn't like that, so she takes her petty hatred of vegetarians to her husband, exploitation director Claudio Fragazzo, who vented her frustrations by making a horror movie about vegetarian monsters. Yeah, it's not much less stupid than it sounds. Anyway, he wasn't completely fluent in English, but still wanted to film it in that language with American actors. So thus, the script for what was then called Goblins was written in English. He got funding from infamous producer Joe D'Amato, who has a history of valuing profit over entertainment value. And keeping up with that sentiment, the budget was set very low and most of the effects were done with little to no money. It was filmed in Utah and Fragazzo directed under the more American-sounding alias Drake Floyd. The actors were found via a casting call in nearby towns and were mostly inexperienced. George Hardy was a dentist who didn't expect much from this audition, only to be given one of the biggest roles in the movie. Another one of the actors, Don Packard, who plays a creepy store owner, was a mental patient on day release. He also smoked weed before filming his part and later admitted to having homicidal thoughts about his co-stars. His deranged appearance was not acting. As for the rest of the cast, they didn't really have a good grasp of what was happening on set either. See, only one member of the Italian crew was fluent in English, costume designer Laura Gemser, and so they had to communicate with the actors through very broken English, which apparently didn't always get the point across very well. They were also pretty clueless about the script. It was only given to them scene by scene, and they often did not understand the dialogue in the broken English it was written in. They often suggested changes to make it sound more like natural English, but Fragasso, or Floyd or whatever, refused to shoot unless they said the words exactly as they were written. He denies all this, but the entire cast has the same story, and his rebuttals, as they're shown in Best Worst Movie, are very defensive and just seems like he's lashing out at people who dare question his genius. After the movie was finished, the American distributors decided to rename it Troll 2 despite having no relation to the movie Troll at all, and of course the fact that it's about goblins and there are no trolls in it whatsoever. It went straight to video. So how does the story of Troll allegedly continue? This one's about a completely different family with a mother whose favorite songs are children's music.
Joshua, start singing. Come on, sing that song I like so much.
I don't feel like singing, Mom.
Just sing.
Row, row, row your boat gently down a stream.
They go to their vacation home in the small town of Nilbog, except the youngest son keeps having visions of his dead grandfather who's now telling him to get out of town because it's full of evil vegetarian goblins. And the kids start to see more of what he's talking about, like how Nilbog is just goblin spelled backwards. Anyway, the vegan goblins thing is that they eat people, but only if they're organic and plant-based, meaning they need to feed them some green paste thing that turns them into some green paste thing so that the goblins can eat that. Or it could also turn you into some half-plant hybrid thing like it did to this one random guy for no reason. I don't know what happened there. First of all, what does any of this have to do with Troll? I know I explained already, but I said I'd complain about it and I'm true to my word. I guess there's a chance that they might exist in the same universe. Obviously there's nothing to confirm that in either movie, but there's also nothing to disprove it. I guess the existence of trolls doesn't completely negate the existence of goblins, but then again by that logic, Love Actually could take place in the same universe as Terrifier. There's nothing to prove they don't. Anyway, the effects are, as expected, terrible. I guess there are some very rare exceptions with transformations and stuff where it looks somewhat decent, but maybe that's just in comparison to everything else in this movie. Namely, the goblins. They are done with a bunch of little people in rubber masks that, unlike the troll's face, do not move or show any expression at all. And a lot of these masks look really goofy. They're dressed in something that looks like a potato sack, and it looks like there are pillows stuffed underneath. Really? Come on. Gotta give credit to the troll team for making the troll go shirtless so we could see that they really put time to making that dad bod. Yeah, ladies, that shit is all real. The first time we see them is in a flashback where they're chasing what looks like some medieval piper or something, and the filmmakers basically aren't even trying to make it scary because they're playing it over this cheesy synth music that doesn't fit into a so-called scary scene at all. The acting is also what you'd expect from a movie with a backstory like this. Terrible, but it's not their fault. The greatest, most experienced actors in the world could not make this bad English dialogue work. And really, this is the kind of bad you see the most in this movie. You only see the goblins and bad special effects for some of the movie. You see actors for the whole thing. Although there is one who's better than all the rest, Deborah Reed, who plays the witch who's basically like their queen or something. She hams this role up into something that's entertaining in a way that's actually intentional. She understood the assignment, better than anybody else involved. Especially the ones who created the whole damn thing. Apparently, Fragasso used her acting as a point so that he could pretend that he made it funny on purpose. Once again, his appearance in Best Worst Movie does not give that impression. This performance may or may not have been intentionally funny, but I think the preacher's monologue about eating meat is totally sincere. I would have personally chose the popcorn sex scene instead. Anyway, I guess I should say that the story isn't completely terrible. If it was executed a little better, it could have been a somewhat decent film. The thing about it that comes closest to being scary is just the fact that it's mostly from the child's perspective. The fact that the hero knows that something horrible is going on but can't do shit about it because nobody takes them seriously. That kind of helplessness could have elevated a better movie. But then again, this is a movie where the bad guys are vegetarian goblins. I guess the concept of them turning people into plants so that they can eat them isn't terrible. It's just how vegetarian they are, to the point where the kid is able to defeat them just by eating a bologna sandwich. And the family is also kind of dumb.
Joshua, start singing. Come on, sing that song I like so much.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass pussy. When they get there, the first thing they see is that the people of this town have put together a welcome meal for them, where all the food is covered in green slime. Nobody sees anything wrong with that. And then time stops for the kid, and the grandfather tells him that the totally not suspicious food in front of them is actually suspicious. So the kid does the completely irrational thing. Pees on the food. No thinking about other options, just right away, better start peeing. Also, it turns out the ghost of the grandfather actually can talk to the other members of the family, as confirmed when he accidentally talks to the kid's sister instead of him. When asked why he couldn't just tell the parents they're in danger instead of having to make the poor kid look crazy, he said that they never listened to him. Like way back when he told the mother to marry somebody else. Yep, he straight up told his grandson that he hates the poor kid's father. Anyway, I can't tell who's the dumb one here. The grandpa for not thinking the parents would listen to a fucking ghost telling them to get out, or the parents who might have actually proved him right. But really, what else can I say that hasn't been said already? It's the worst movie ever, it's the best worst movie, it is what it is. It's absolutely terrible, yet still a must watch. Anyway, I can't find any reviews from when it came out, which sucks because I'd love to see how that review would look. I guess it would make sense that little to no critics cared enough to watch this thing. I'm guessing the people who did watch it at the time were fans of the original Troll who saw this at Blockbuster or something and decided to give it a try. I'm going out on a limb and guessing that most of them hated it. So there goes the chances of a Troll 3. Just kidding, they made at least 2 Troll 3s. None of these are related to either Troll movie. They were all just renamed in some territories in the same way that Troll 2 was. The first one was called Quest for the Mighty Sword and was already a sequel to something else. It was the 4th installment in an Italian fantasy adventure franchise about a character named Ator. It reused some of the masks from Troll 2, and that was apparently connection enough that in Germany they added Troll 3 before the title. The other one is The Crawlers, which is about killer plants and has no trolls or goblins, but was still named Troll 3 in some territories. And as you all know by now, Troll 2 got a cult following. It apparently spent a lot of time as number 1 on the IMDB Bottom 100 list, and in this case, that's a major endorsement. In 2007, the town of Morgan, Utah, where part of the film had been shot, featured a Troll 2 themed event called No Bog Invasion. And of course, the lead child star grew up to make Best Worst Movie, which got a theatrical release in 2010, and opened to critical acclaim. And Fragazzo was actually interested in making an actual sequel. He held a poll on what to call it, and the winning title was Troll 2 Part 2. However, this project never came to fruition. The idea of a sequel was dead. Until 2019. Or probably not. There's a movie called Under Control, which some people say is an official sequel, but I haven't found any credible sources to back that up. Fragazzo had nothing to do with it. But it does feature dentist and Troll 2 actor George Hardy playing what appears to be the same character. Although then again he doesn't appear to be billed very high. Also, this movie is about trolls, so it can't be related to Troll 2. Is George Hardy just this movie's version of the Goblin masks in Quest for the Mighty Sword? Is this just an unrelated movie that they told us was a sequel to dupe us into watching it? That's not cool. Anyway, Troll 2 is a difficult one to rate. How do you rate a movie that's so bad it's good? I haven't had too much trouble thinking about ratings for other entries that fall into this category, but for this one I couldn't think of anything for days. Well, I guess I'll just go with a 0 star because that's technically what it deserves. With movies like these, the only 2 acceptable ratings seem to be either 0 stars or 5 stars. Well, I'm going for the 0. It deserves it. It truly has little to no redeeming values. Sorry, Deborah Reed. Almost nothing, except for the fact that it's the best movie ever. Sure, I'll put it above all the other 0 star movies. Number 27. Let's go.